and
Okay.
I will let you know when we're actually recording, and actually we're streaming live today. Okay, so welcome again to Homegrown Stories, where the purpose is to make sure that everybody outside of North Dakota and even within North Dakota know what North Dakotans are. We're only a state of 800,000 people, so it's rare to find us. So today I have Mr. Ethan Haynes. So as you know, we've often talked to some of the more historical figures in our state, like Sarah Vogel and everybody, but Ethan Haynes just turned 18 and he just graduated from Dickinson High School. Ethan, welcome to Homegrown Stories.
Well, thank you very much for having me on. It's a pleasure to be here.
Okay. Ethan, so we're just going to start out with, tell us about yourself. Were you born and raised in Dickinson? Tell us about your family. What's your background?
Yeah, well, I was born and raised in Dickinson, North Dakota. I've been here all 18 years of my life. My family's not from North Dakota, though. My mom's from New Hampshire. My dad's from Tennessee. My brothers were born in Illinois. So I'm the only one in my entire family born and raised in North Dakota. What else do I have about me?
How did your parents come here then?
They were living in Illinois at the time with my brothers after they had them. And then shortly after, my dad got a job offer at Dickinson State University. And then he moved first, of course, just to get started in the job. And then slowly the rest of my family moved over. Even my grandparents moved here at one point.
Oh, okay, very good. And so was it, but you were born here, so you wouldn't know if it's an adjustment or not. So
yeah.
Okay, so you have 4 of you all together, brothers and sisters?
I have 2 biological brothers and then 1 stepbrother.
All right,
so
very good.
4 of us if you include my stepbrother.
Okay. So you've been your whole life here in Dickinson. So what did you do growing up? Like, what were your hobbies? What were your sports? What was your culture?
Growing up, when I was little, I was in t-ball and like little league soccer. Those were big ones for me. Those I remember a lot. I had a good time in those. My mom even coached my team once. I remember that.
Okay.
Then I used to swim a lot, but then I just grew out of it kind of pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
So I used to like take swimming lessons hardcore. I would always go to the pool, and I just kind of grew out of it, I guess. There's nothing really to it. But mainly I would hang out with the neighborhood kids, especially I had these neighbor girls across the street. We would always hang out during our free time when they weren't in school after I got out of preschool.
Okay. All right. So, but you did just graduate from high school.
Yes.
And so congratulations. Welcome to the adult world.
Thank
But
you.
you did it in the middle of COVID. So your experience of graduating from high school is very different from ours. It's supposed to be this big day and this big transition into adulthood. So tell us about how that changed you or what you thought of that.
Well, I mean, like every class, like class of 2018, the class of 2019, the class of 2021, 22, so on and so forth, they get the fun quarter of senior year. The last quarter, the last 9 weeks of senior year, they get their senior picnic, their senior prom, their senior skip day, their senior prank, all that fun stuff. I didn't get that. Mine got cut short. It was a very rainy day in March, and the governor pretty much said that we're done for the year. And I looked up at my girlfriend at the time that I was with at the time, and she said that I asked her, I was like, did my senior year just get stolen from me? Because that's pretty much what it felt like. It was a really depressing time because everyone else gets to have these fun times. Everyone else gets to go together in this gymnasium at the end of the year and graduate in front of all their friends and family. Yeah. And this year we had to stand out in the rain, the freezing rain, and walk across stage, making sure everyone was 6 feet apart. And it was depressing, but I mean, if the class of 2020 can get through this, I think we can get through anything.
Yeah. And how many people were graduating in your class? How many were in your graduating class?
I want to say like 270.
270. Oh, that's bigger than I thought.
Yeah.
So that's really good. And then, yeah. And so that is a good point, though. You lived a shared experience that only this year, the class of 2020, can talk about.
Yeah, and I mean, a big perk of it is, I guess, in a weird way, is my sister-in-law is also a class of 2020 graduate from Dickinson State. So that's one thing that her and I have a lot of in common, that she didn't get a graduation. She didn't get a graduation period at Dickinson State. They had a drive-by, and they didn't really advertise it at all.
Yeah, it was such a crazy time, and yeah. Well, welcome to the adult world, and you grew up fast then. So interestingly, uh, very different than my experience in high school. You were very, very active, and you in high school created something called the High School Young Democrats of North Dakota. So where I grew up, kids were not very politically active at all. We didn't even know anything. But that's like really struck me that you actually created and participated and led a political organization within your school. So can you tell us what that is, what made you do that, and how that works?
Well, pretty much what the High School Democrats of North Dakota is, we are a like branch of the High School Democrats of America. It spans across, I want to say, 47 states and certain territories of the United States. And it's just a bunch of high schoolers that get together that have Democratic ideology backgrounds and work together to try and make their lives better than it already is. Such as in the 2018 midterms, we door knocked, we canvassed, we left literature, we everything, the whole 9 yards. Some of us were even employed on campaigns, like Senate campaigns, to work for them. One name that comes to mind is Prescott Herzig, I think is how you pronounce it. He
Okay.
worked on a presidential campaign for during the primaries, which is huge that a high schooler is working on that level of politics. And the reason I started it personally was because I felt that I wanted to be more active in the political sphere, and because that's what makes change in the world. You,
Mhm.
it's hard to make change without some form of policy backing it up. So I
You are
wanted to
wise
push.
beyond your years. Let's go on, go on.
So I wanted to make sure that my voice and people in my school were heard if they had a Democratic voice. I know that there's a High School Republicans of North Dakota as well, which the chair at the time when I started High School Democrats was a good friend of mine.
Oh, I love.
So they were really on board, and we still work with them constantly on and stuff like raising funds for an Alzheimer's association. We work
Okay.
together and stuff like that just to make sure that we can show that bipartisanship works, and we can make sure, and if the old people in Congress won't do it, we young people back in North Dakota will.
You are the chosen generation. I love that. So did you talk about politics a lot in your family, or was this just like something that you found as an interesting subject matter, or was that a part of your dinner time conversations?
Well, it was never part of our dinner time conversations growing up. My entire family is really not political at all, actually.
Okay.
The most political my family gets was my dad back in 2008, led Barack Obama's campaign in Stark County for the
Oh,
primaries.
oh, I
So
didn't know
that
that.
that's the biggest scale we've ever gotten on that. My brother, not my middle brother, not really, but he did go on strike for teachers' raises in Arizona.
Oh, okay.
But overall, I'm the one that stayed very consistent on my political beliefs. And it all started after the 2016 election. My dad and I constantly watched the debates, both Democratic and Republican debates. And
Uh-huh.
I wanted to learn more about it. So I just kept watching them. I kept myself informed. I learned about delegate counts, how that worked. I tried my best to learn about the whole thing because I felt it was important that someone should know how it works, especially a younger person. So when I go to vote in November, every November now at this point,
Yeah.
I am making an informed decision. And that's pretty much how I got into it. Just my dad mainly, but everything just worked just perfectly for me to get into politics.
Oh, that gives me such hope. I mean, I was not like that, and I am. Well, civics is just not taught as much as it should, and it's not until you become a business person like myself or whatever that you realize how important policies are and who's at the table making those policy decisions and their depth of understanding. Ethan, I am 52 years old and I'm just figuring this out. So this is what makes me hopeful that with your generation, we're going to have a more educated electorate, engaged, and I'm super excited about that. And so as what did you guys do? So you worked with your other party who are also your friends. So I love that. So you're bantering ideas, not attacking people because it's your friends. So did you guys have debates and stuff and you raised money and what else did you guys do like around the state?
We haven't really done much just because we had stuff planned for the spring of this year just to do like a joint march in Minot. But because of everything that happened, that had to be called off, unfortunately. So there hasn't been a lot of work. However, with the incoming chair of the high school Democrats from Minot, I'm hoping he will continue that dialogue with the high school Republicans and make sure that we can keep this going, because it's important that young people set the example for sometimes the older people that won't do it.
Right, right. And you guys have the energy and you have the new ideas, and you are going to be living in that world of those decisions that we're making. So I thank you for your service. I really appreciate that. And I hope that you guys, how have you, since you guys are more in touch with technology and stuff, do you think that's going to give you an advantage this campaign season to kind of be able to organize and everything just amongst yourself, among the younger generations?
I would definitely say so. I do know with the High School Democrats of America right now, they're actually hosting their national summit over Zoom,
Okay.
because every year they have to elect their new national board, and they go through a bunch of workshops that on like how to organize. I have a notebook full of it from last
Okay.
year over somewhere in a cabinet.
Yeah.
And it's just notes of how to properly fundraise, what resources to use, who to ask, how much to ask, how to phone bank training, how to
Yeah.
door knock properly.
Yeah. That's it. You think that you don't have to be trained to knock on a door, but you could, I guess you do. Yeah.
Sometimes you do.
Especially going out into the world for the first time. So, how did you, so we in North Dakota are actually the Dem NPL,
Yeah.
and so has that shifted your ideology at all? Are you uh, like all in on the, like that we're actually a unique political party, like, or like how does the NPL part into the Dem ideology match in your world? Because that started in 100 years ago, more than
Yeah.
100.
So for me, the MPO part actually plays a huge part for me, especially when the presidential primaries were still in full swing and there were 24 nominees at one point. I had to narrow down to certain people, and the people that I narrowed it down to were those the most middle of the ground, the ones that say, wow, I love this change. We need to think about everyone here. We need to work with both sides of the aisle. Otherwise, you'll never get anything done. Within the United States Senate, the narrow of margin between the two parties is less than 5 members. So that it makes it almost impossible to get anything done on a strictly partisan basis. So if you strip away the partisanship and start working with each other across the aisle, that is when you will get that real change and make sure that actually everyone wins in the end.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're talking to North Dakota's future senator right here. I'm more than impressed. Well, just that just seems so clear, and for some reason we can't get that across, but gives me hope that that's not going to be our present is not going to be our future. So I'm happy about that. So outside of politics, what did you did swimming and stuff, but you also worked at the Pizza Ranch. Like, so you had
Yes.
work, right? So one thing that's, I think, really great about a lot of young North Dakotans, they have to start working in their community. So tell us about some of your jobs in the community.
Well, in the community, I've only pretty much worked at Pizza Ranch since I was 15. I One of the main skills I learned there was that if you work hard and you make sure that you can get everything done in a timely manner, things will start to go your way a little bit more. So I've started to apply. I applied those skills to school, and it worked perfectly for me. I finished the last semester of high school with a 4.4 GPA because I took those skills from my job and applied them to school and to an actual useful thing that will determine my future.
Yeah, yeah. And what did you do at Pizza Ranch? What was your job?
I like to call myself the Swiss Army knife. I did a
Okay.
little bit of things. So if they needed someone up front, I could do that. I could work with the customers on up front, person to person, or over the phone. I would be in the back doing pizza. I could do deliveries. I could do dish. I could do game room. Pretty much anything they needed me to do, I could do it.
You are a true North Dakotan and the right attitude. I love that. And I think that gets missed. Like those jobs are just so critical in character development and how to actually be successful. So you worked, you did excellent in school, and so now you're graduated.
Yes.
What are you going to do with your life?
Well, right now I'm going to DSU for a undergrad in secondary education and social studies. And then after that, I do plan on going to UND for law school with a focus in constitutional law.
Oh,
I believe that choice did come through my love of politics and the love of the country, that I want to learn more about the Constitution and make sure no one's rights are infringed upon, no one's toes are stepped
Ladies and gentlemen, the future Supreme Court nominee, Ethan Haynes from North Dakota. I didn't know that about you, about that. So, so this is going to get a little bit of a kind of current news, but going to school at DSU, you're going to stay local. How did you choose to go to DSU? Was it to stay home, or costs, or what made you decide to stay here? Because what is happening is this, you obviously are a great brain, and we have this great brain drain from North Dakota. I am so happy that you chosen to stay here in my community, but how did you choose going to DSU?
The cost, honestly, it was very affordable looking at it. Living off campus, not paying room and board fees is going to save me a fortune. So it purely came down to the financial part. I was originally looking to go, I actually had my heart set on a college up in Massachusetts, Westfield State College, where they offered a 3x3 program for law students. So instead of 8 years, it would take me 6 years.
Oh yeah.
So exactly, in a time manner, I was planning to go there because it would take less time to get the degree I wanted. But because of all the cost of moving, out of state tuition, and room and board that I would have to do there because of the cost of living, I would not be able to do it. Personally, I'd be in a mountain of debt for the next 20 to 30 years of my life.
Super important. So not only is he smart, but he already has business smarts. And that, so I think that's a really important point, and that's why it's so important to have local universities within our state, and that just that alone will put you ahead of anybody that hasn't figured that out yet, not being married to that debt. It's huge. And so I'm glad DSU is here. I'm glad that you've chosen to do that, and you were smart enough to figure that out. And then you're going to go to law school on the eastern side of the state. So to bless them over there with your Western beginnings.
Exactly.
Yeah. So when it comes to constitutional law, I mean, I can't even, not even most adults even think about that, much less think about making a career in it. What is it that, why you wanted to go to constitutional law versus policy law, or, that sort of thing? Why constitutional law?
Well, the Constitution was one of the best documents I've ever read, and the one I've found the most intriguing throughout my entire course of learning about any form of U.S. document. I remember my first time ever learning about it in, I want to say, fourth grade. I learned about it for the first time, and it was really interesting to me that like 30 people somehow managed to agree on one thing for once.
Yeah.
It was crazy to me.
They were young. They were in their 30s.
Exactly. They were young people that got together and made a document that is still used to this day. And I find that impressive. And then in 11th grade, when I was in AP US history, I was learning more and more about the American Revolution, the ideologies that came behind it, with the ideas of the city on the hill, with John Withenrop, the Puritans that came over that inspired the whole ideology behind the Constitution, and the Puritans and I can't remember the other group off the top of my head, but everything about the Constitution just seems to just rival around me and just say that this is one of the most interesting things that's ever been made, and that even the founders knew it's not perfect. So put in a system to where it can be changed. I even have a copy in my car right now because I forgot to take it out from my history class that I had this past year.
I love that. And I like how you've put, like, we always just think of it as a document, but I love how you brought in like all the influence that went into that document. You think it's just like this one document, but I bet you could go down a lot of rabbit holes. Just
you really can.
What would be your favorite amendment?
My favorite amendment is the First Amendment. And the only reason that it's my favorite amendment is because that gives you the right to say any other amendment is your favorite amendment. That gives you the right to say you don't even like the Constitution. That gives you the right to say anything you want on where the government can't censor you. That is personally.
Right. Well, I'm sure you're going to have a lot to say, and you're going to say it loud and clear, and everybody will hear it. Okay, so you're starting in DSU. Okay, so we will keep up on your story throughout the decades. So before we wrap up, this is my favorite question. What is your favorite thing about living in North Dakota?
Well, throughout my young adult years, like the middle school, early high school years, I was that angsty teen that was like, I don't like it here. It's too small. There's too much grass. There's not enough people. Where's the city? But I had a really good friend in high school that I stuck with, and I think that was one of my best decisions I've ever made. And they showed me the beauty of this state. They showed me how the prairie is just beautiful, and how the flatlands on the west are nothing compared to the rolling hills and plateaus on the east. And the amazing people where someone can break down the side of the road
Yeah,
on the interstate going to Bismarck, and they'll have their four-ways on, and people will pull over to help them out. And random strangers, you would never meet this person anywhere else, but they will help you out. And
yeah.
so my favorite thing about living in North Dakota is the people. The people here are the most inspiring, the most friendly, the happiest people I've ever met. And I don't know where else I'd find it.
It's hard to find. It's genuine and authentic, and it's a level of connection that you have to experience to know it, but it always comes through when I ask that question. It's just like people's face lights up, and it's just, it is the best state ever. And so I'm glad you are a product of it. I say we grow good cows, good corn, or good grain, and good people. That's one of our best things that we grow here. And so
That's very
Ethan,
true.
you're bringing us a lot of hope. I feel inspired by you and your energy, and I am blown away with your level of knowledge already. But I'm still just trying to figure out. So Ethan, welcome to the adult world. You're going to knock our socks off, and make sure you guys remember his name. Ethan Haynes, Dickinson, North Dakota. Ciao. Okay.